Welcome to the Interstate Mets Report, your favorite New York Mets show right here on YouTube, hosted by CP and Nelson.
What is up, all you beautiful people? Welcome back to the Interstate Mets Report. It is the Friday night edition, Interstate Mets After Dark. And obviously, you can tell here, you only have one of your two co-hosts. Nelson could not join us tonight. He is having some internet issues. It does come with the trade-off of living in Amish country land. But nonetheless, we do have Matt from Sunny Days Media, and I appreciate it because if you all know this channel, you definitely know my man, Matt. And listen, just quite simple. If you're not subscribed to him, he's going to have Mets content coming out this season. We've been doing post games. And when I first started this channel and when Nelson and I first started doing Mets content, you were the original guy. You were our third. So I definitely appreciate you hopping on, back with us, being a recurring guest. And if you're not subscribed, anyone in the chat, and we got some people in the chat, we'll get to some comments. Make sure you subscribe to Matt's channel. Link's going to be in the description down below. And let me just let you plug a little bit of your stuff coming up for the Mets this coming season, Pasq.
Chris, great to be here. No pun intended on the plug. Yeah, I was one of the original guys in this Mets threesome. Got a little hot and heavy at times. Great to be here. Although I will say you're going to get an invoice from my physician for that gunshot you have at the end of the 30 seconds. I'm going to have to see an ear, nose, and throat doctor. That was something. A little loud in the headphones. But no, we are going to be doing some stuff at Sunny Days Media. We started in the fall with a lot of football content. Chris, you were part of that Thursday night, Sunday mornings.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be doing some Mets content. I apologize for this mic here. Keep moving it around. Going to be doing Mets content this spring. I should have a co-host. So a guy who hasn't hasn't podcast before. So he's trying to muster up the brass set of balls to getting on doing this. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure we'll be doing some stuff together too with you and Nelson as well. So let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. We have a lot of discussions. I see people in the chat, and yes, I am rocking my New York Rangers jersey. The boys are winners of 9 straight. So any Rangers fans out there in the chat, stand up. The boys are rocking, and they're rolling, and we're here to talk about the New York Mets. Follow us on X, by the way, at Interstate Mets. And as always, everyone in the chat, if you're listening, whether it's live, keep dropping those live chats. We'll prop them up. We'll have a discussion, I promise, and make sure you're hitting that thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow, and it helps everybody involved. So I definitely appreciate it. And this is also being streamed to Nelson's YouTube channel, so make sure you go check him out as well. Okay, enough shameless plugging. We have some Mets baseball to talk about. Kodai Senga, up first here. He has been officially diagnosed from what was at first, quote-unquote, arm fatigue to now a more medical, I guess, more technical diagnosis.
Doctor
Moderate
words.
Yeah, doctor words. Moderate posterior capsule strain. And honestly, before we get into our takes about it, I want to play this clip from Dr. Jesse, what's his name? Dr. Jesse Morse on X, and we're going to sort of listen in to what a sports doctor has to say about this injury. And some of you all might have already seen this, but nonetheless, it's very good insight. So let's play it and let's see what Dr. Jesse Morse has to say about the Kodai Senga injury.
If the damage is too much, he's not going to be able to heal that quick enough to then be able to throw another 50 or 100 pitches, especially at velocity with movement. Now, there's a couple options they have here. At the minimum, they need to shut him down probably for about a month, 2 to 3 weeks, and then they need to ramp him back up. The problem is when they start ramping him back up, if he has a flare, then they're kind of stuck. If he was my patient, I would inject a couple different options, either at the minimum PRP taken from the plasma of the blood, or you can inject a couple different stem cell lines.
What is he talking about? Plasma from the blood as an injection? All right.
To reinforce this whole entire posterior capsule. At that point, I would probably shut him down for about 3 to 4 weeks. And then I would have him do a lot of high-level physical therapy to start strengthening up that posterior shoulder and ideally anterior shoulder to be able to accommodate all the stress that he's going to endure. I do not think realistically he's going to be ready to throw until probably June. I think that's probably realistic, depending on how aggressive they want to be. They just spent a lot.
All right. So can you hear me all right? My mic cut out a little bit there.
Yeah, you went in and out, but you're back.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. So that was Dr. Jesse Moore. Obviously, Dr. Jesse Moore probably made this video just as a sort of precursor to this.
He does a lot of these.
And he does a lot of these, but he went and he said this before the actual diagnosis, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But nonetheless,
I'm not sure.
or did he make it after the diagnosis? I didn't do my research on that. I probably should have before we went live. But nonetheless, I don't think he has the full medical report, as John is saying here in the chat, to what and how bad this Kodai Senga injury is. So, but when I heard June, I was like, yo, June? And I was like, that is bad news. So what is your take, Pasq? What is your take on this injury and what Dr. Jesse has to say?
So a little insight on this. I am speaking from a guy that digs holes for a living. I am not the sharpest tool in the shed. However, my beautiful wife happens to be an x-ray tech, and I have 2 other doctors in my immediate family. And so anytime any of this happens, it's always a very quick screenshot and sent to those 2 people. I won't name them. I have not asked for their permission to name them. So anyways, I send it to them, and the response that I got from the DeComo tweet, I'll tell you it right now. Where is it?
By the way,
when did this come
out? By the way,
yesterday?
John is saying this is clickbait because obviously I don't think this guy's seen the Senga MRI and they're not going to release that. So this guy's just speculating.
All right. So from my unnamed doctor in my family, quote, strain isn't that bad. They're probably going to make him rest, allow the inflammation to go down, most likely, and then ramp him back up. So the closest thing you could find to this is Kyle Wright last year from the Braves. Sure. And that's not an example that we really like to see because that was a guy that dealt with this, was out for about a month or so, came back, made 4 or 5 starts, and then done for the year. So it's really something that after a month we'll know more of, right?
Yep.
And it's from what Jerry Blevins was saying about it. I guess the part of his shoulder, that's what's concerning because it's not typical even for pitchers. Like this is not a typical injury.
Right.
But it really depends. We'll know more in a month after the inflammation goes down, hopefully. Right? Until then, you know, and just to give context, I will say this, the source that I sent this to, if those of you remember, CJ Gardner-Johnson tore his pectoral in week 2 of this year. I had a long discussion with that doctor, and she literally predicted that when he would be back, like literally almost to a T. And kind of by luck, but like when I explained it to her and she was like, listen, if it's a clear, for context, he tore his pectoral, but it was a clean tear. And most people say, oh, you're out for the season. Her quote to me was, but if it's a clean tear and they did the surgery immediately, probably a good chance you'll see him again around New Year's. And sure as shit, we saw him on December 28th. So it's hopefully this is something that after a month will be all right.
Your source doctor really needs to give the rights to their name because they'd be famous if he or she heard.
Well, anything that gives us optimism, right? Anything that gives us, us Mets fans optimism because we live in a dumpster, right? That's what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, this is something where we're definitely not going to see Kodai Senga opening day, right? This is that is bar none. That is the obvious, and that has been stated. So the Mets definitely need to sort of, I wouldn't say tread lightly, but they need to be careful with how much eggs they're putting in one basket. Now, David Stearns, we'll get into the quotes here in just a second about maybe some external options and what David Stearns has said. he's basically alluded to the fact that the Mets really aren't going to be interested in any sort of external options. And we'll get into that just here in just a second. But nonetheless, this is such a huge and brutal blow because Kodai Senga, man, he's coming off of what? Top 3 in Cy Young votes, right, last year, rookie season. He definitely had some mileage on that arm coming over from Japan. But nonetheless, this is a guy that got acclimated very well to the major leagues. And when everything sort of was pointing toward the fact that, a slow start, Justin Verlander got hurt very early on in spring training last season. And all that pressure started to amount on Kodai Senga, and he struggled out of the gates. But he really, really honed it in, and he grasped what it was, what it really meant to be a major leaguer. And he went out there and performed at his very best, his peak. The ghost fork pitch, we all know he honed in on. So this is a guy that we were expecting, and we still do expect because he's going to be back in 2024. Make no mistake about it. This isn't a season-ending injury. But we were expecting him to just start off the gates just like boom, like just full go. And this really does suck. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Obviously, we're going to talk about the David Stearns quotes. We're going to be talking about some external/internal options and how this pitching sort of staff and bullpen looks like for opening day. But nonetheless, yeah, this really blows, man. Man, New York injuries, man. I mean, Julius Randle with the shoulder, now Kodai Senga with the shoulder. We don't have a break, man.
It's shitty because there's a lot of uncertainty, right? It's not something that's typical. It's not something that you see literally every year. Some credit to Evan Roberts. I was listening to his podcast today while I was at work, and he was talking a lot about this. And he said that's the most frightening. I'm paraphrasing here, but that's the most frightening thing about this is that it doesn't necessarily. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's not like when DeGrom or other guys would come off the mound with forearm tightness or elbow pain or the quote, I heard a pop. Like, it's not one of those things. So we could all kind of come down and exhale a little bit. But, everybody predicting a timetable, also keep this in mind. He's not throwing for a month. Okay. So March 1st, what's today? No, we're almost in March, right? So he's not going to start.
February 23rd. We're a week away. Yeah.
Okay, so he's not going to start throwing till the end of March, possibly beginning of April. Okay, That's just him throwing. That's his spring training. So he's going to be doing that, and then a minor league stint. And this is also a guy that pitches every 6th day. They're not going to have him pitching every 5th day, right? So he's going to go once a week. So yes, when Dr. Jesse Morse says probably June, yeah, that's probably what that means. That probably means sometime in the middle to end of May to June, because off the bat, he's going to need, once he's ready to go, he's going to need a month in the minors. Like, this isn't a guy that's going to go through a 3-week minor league stint and say, yeah, I'm good. Like, this is he's probably going to want 3, 4, 5 starts down in the minors. Like, and this is not a guy, a lot of our future is pinned on Kodai Senga. This is a guy that when he is at his best, he is a top 10 pitcher in this league, right? Yep. And that's Major League Baseball, not just the National League, Major League Baseball. He's got elite level stuff. This is not a guy you need to rush back. So yeah, I think it's reasonable to say Memorial Day, June. That's reasonable to me.
I would say so too. If I had to put a stamper on it, I would definitely guess probably.
And that's if there's no setbacks. That's if there's no setbacks.
Because like you said, this is a very unique injury. This is a capsule strain, and that capsule is not usually something that pitchers deal with. We've seen only a handful of pitchers dealing with this. Most notably and most recently, actually signing back to a deal with the Brewers was Brandon Woodruff had that capsule injury. But this is something that, like, everybody was jumping to conclusions on Mets Twitter, whatever you want to call it. They're like, oh, this is definitely his UCL. This is definitely Tommy John. This is Tommy John. Well, it's good and bad news, I would say, because it's good that it's only a strain and that he's not going to miss the entirety of 2024 from what we know and what David Stearns has said. But also the uncertainty, like you just said, Pasq, of this type of injury with the capsule is just, it's a crapshoot. We just don't know if there's going to be any setbacks, and we don't truly know what his timetable, we can talk about general timetables, but how much how long Kodai Senga is going to need for this to heal. Everybody's different, and everybody's body is different.
This is a 30-year-old, 31-year-old man we're talking about, a guy that's been pitching for a long time professionally, a guy that knows his body better than the doctors that are treating him right now know his body, because these doctors have only known him for about a season now, right? So this is a guy that knew something was off, removed himself from the situation, and hopefully we take things slow and he progresses. There's no setbacks, and we see him. But I'm in no rush to see Kodai Senga. And, you know, I guess it kind of an overarching thing here. Oh, I think I just unplugged my computer. Nope. An overarching thing here is this isn't 2023. There's, you know, we could have some high hopes for this team in a sense of, and some we'll touch on it a little bit. I'm sure we talk about the other players here, but like, this is not a World Series or bust year. Like, let's be honest with ourselves, Mets fans.
No,
Look at yourself in the mirror. This is not a World Series or bust year. I do not need to lose Kodai Senga in 2025. So if that means we got to wait till the 4th of fucking July and fireworks to see Kodai Senga, so be it. So be it. I'm in no. There's zero reason to rush him.
That's a great take, and I'm certainly in that line as well. There's no reason to rush him because the Mets do have bigger plans. Like you just said, this is not World Series or bust. And even if they did sign a couple of big free agents, let's say they signed Yamamoto, that wouldn't even have made them a World Series contender at that point too. So I think that's where a lot of Mets fans get it twisted. But nonetheless, it is what it is. We are about 16, 17 minutes into the live stream. As always, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up on all streams. This is being streamed to Sunny Days Media channel as well. Link is going to be in the description to Pasq's YouTube. Make sure you go subscribe there. Make sure you hit that subscribe, thumbs up, comment, keep commenting. Let's get to some comments here as well, because there are some great people in this chat that I want to acknowledge because they've been rocking with us from the start. And this Interstate Mets report has really grown over the last, I want to say, 4 to 5 months. And I have everybody in this chat here to thank, and I thoroughly appreciate it. Talking Mets with Rob, first and foremost, our Mets Hot Stove Lives. He's in Port St. Lucie getting wasted. Have a great show, he says. Rob, please enjoy spring training. I know I can't get out there this year, but I'm going to be there next year with you, and we all got to do a little bit of a boys trip there. Also, David's saying I look like Kevin Parada. What is it? Is it the glasses? Do I look like Kevin Parada? Do I have to take these off? Like, maybe I'll take them off for the rest of the stream. I don't know.
You know what they say about Kevin Parada, though? He's a fucking dog. You know what they say about Kevin Parada. So if you're slinging ham like old Kev, then shit.
Yeah. Well, anyways, hopefully, speaking on Kevin Parada, we're not going to touch too much on him tonight, but hopefully he gets it going and has a little bit of a resurgent year. Ibby's in the chat. Make sure you all subscribe into the Till Mets Do Us Part. Almost at 700 subscribers over there. Definitely appreciate it. We got Mason, in the chat as well. Nelson probably is not going to be in the chat because his internet doesn't work, but we'll see. We'll see what happens there. That's my sports Aaron checking in. Interstate After Dark. Yeah, I appreciate you guys. We got Lane. We got Stevie saying let's go. We got Sanders saying let's go. We appreciate it. Keep dropping those comments, and we're going to prop them up. You know how we do it here, and we're going to keep on going on with the show. As always, Kodai Senga, please heal up young Prince. We need you. We need you to be fine. We don't need you just for 2024, although it'd be nice for you to come back sooner rather than later. But like you're saying, Pasq, it's not really something where you need to rush this at this very given moment because we have other pieces that can and hopefully will step up. Let's move on to David Stearns' comments, though. Stearns was asked if Senga's injury would impact the chances that the Mets go out to the free agent market and look for external candidates, to which he had a couple of replies. Quote unquote from David Stearns, from the guy himself in the flesh, David Stearns. No, I don't think so. We're always going to be opportunistic and see what's out there. I guess that's a little bit of a positive sign if you're hoping for a free agent. But he says, I don't think it really changes our thought process. And it's been very clear that the New York Mets have had a game plan this entire offseason, with the exception of Yoshinobu Yamamoto, that they are not going out there and prioritizing long-term deals. And now that's just specifically as it pertains to the Jordan Montgomerys and the Blake Snells of the world that are still out there. You still have guys that you can sign to one-year deals on the free agent starting pitching market, but nonetheless, when a lot of Mets fans are asking if the Mets are going to pivot to the free agent market given this Kodai Senga injury, they're predominantly talking about the Jordan Montgomerys and Blake Snell. So where are you at with that, Pasq?
Well, so I guess another paraphrase or quote here of Evan, and I agreed with it. Does Kodai's injury change their outlook on free agency? No, it doesn't. Right? It's going to be the same as it was. However, so what is Stearns saying here? What Stearns is telling us is, no, this isn't changing anything. We're not looking for a pitcher. Now, does that mean like we're taking this at face value? And I guess some people do that, and that's fine. First of all, like if you're the general manager of a team and you're actually looking for a pitcher, you don't go out and say, yeah, well, now we're looking. Because what do those agents do? Oh, okay, now we're jacking the price up because that's the leverage. We know you need a pitcher. We know that you need one, right? So if they are looking, they're not going to say that they're looking because that's going to make us pay more, typically. That being said, I don't think they're going to, I think we're in agreement here. I don't think that they're going to sign a Montgomery or a Snell. Now, if one of those, now keep in mind, we're about $15 million away from the Steve Cohen tax. And I can tell you, just based off last year, I don't think either one of those guys are going to cost less than that. So I don't think we're getting one of those guys. And those guys are looking for multi-year deals. I don't think the Mets want to. What?
Try double that per year.
Oh, yeah. Right? So now, I don't think that those guys are going to get what they thought they were going to get. So the price may come down, but it's not going to be under $15 million. But to contrast a little bit, I do think they're going to sign someone before spring training's over. That's my expectation because we know these are the New York Mets. What happens every year to the Mets, and this is just the start. Guys get hurt, especially starting pitchers. And you're banking on guys, Sean Manaea, injury-riddled past, Luis Severino, injury-riddled, inconsistent past. There's a lot of guys here. Joey Lucchesi. We're going to talk about Joey Lucchesi in a little bit. Unfortunately, even with the Mets, Joey's had some injury issues. So to think that we're definitely not signing anyone, no, I don't think so. But is it going to be a big name? Probably not. There's two big names, and I don't think we're going after those guys. I think they're going to wait and load up in 25.
I think that too, and we can certainly talk about it at some point here, 2025, because it's going to be a completely different ball game in terms of the free agency. But what are like a couple of names? Like, have you looked at the free agency market to see what's out there? Because you have a lot of people talking about Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell. Nonetheless, these guys can wait it out, and Scott Boras can like play a game with these front offices and in these owners. But at the end of the day, the price is not going to come down enough for the Mets to budge, especially given what they've been showing willing, or I guess I should say that they've been unwilling to give out to other free agents earlier on this offseason. That price for Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell, there's no way they take a 1 or 2 year deal. And it's not going to be in the AAV that everybody wants it to be. Because if we're paying Jordan Montgomery $30 million plus a year, I'm sorry, I'm out. I know he had a great World Series run with the Texas Rangers last season. He's not an ace. I'm sorry. He's just not. He's a 3 at best in this league.
Montgomery?
So I'm not. What was that?
You said Montgomery or Snell?
Montgomery.
Okay.
Montgomery's a 3 in this league, and I firmly will back that. But outside of that, I'm not committing $30+ million to either of those guys long term. I came into this offseason saying that Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery both are going to want 6 to 7 year deals. And maybe that 6 to 7 turns into 5, and that's what's holding up all these teams. But I don't think it's going to get any less than that. I think they're going to get 5 or even north of that, and we'll see what it's like on the other end when the contract comes in. But these negotiations that are going on right now, it's either a discrepancy of years between 6 and 7 versus 5 or AAV. And I don't even know what the AAV number would be, but it's definitely going to be north of 25 because Sonny Gray started off this free agency making 25 plus with the Cardinals. These guys are definitely making more than Sonny Gray. So
I think Montgomery is going to get closer to what he wanted. I think the price on Snell, just based off what I've read, I'm not in these discussions. I'm not his agent. Just from everything that we've seen on Twitter, from notable reporters, it doesn't seem like the market's there for him. And that's not to say he's not going to get signed. Both of these guys will be pitching in 2024. They'll be signed to a team by the second or third week of March. Like, they're not going to be free agents much longer. I just don't think they are going to get the contracts that they originally desired. And that's both of them. I mean, I think Monty will get close to it. But they're not going to get what they desired. There are names. I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Blake Snell has the qualifying offer attached to him as well that Jordan Montgomery doesn't. And that is definitely something to take into consideration with draft pick compensation, international free agent money, all that good stuff, the bonus pool, all that good stuff. That is something that teams definitely do and are taking a little bit more serious nowadays. And that is something that Blake Snell is a little bit of a disadvantage at than Jordan Montgomery because he does have the qualifying offer attached to him. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Give me some names. We have some names in the chat here.
Yeah.
We have some, throw out some names. I think for me, Eric Lauer would probably be number one of the remaining free agents. If the Mets were to go external, which by the way, I'm going to take the opposite stance that you are and say that the New York Mets are not going to sign a free agent. I don't think they will, and we'll get into it, and I'll tell you why on the next screen. We'll pick literally from 7 different internal options that they have to go with, but I don't think they're going to do it. And I think that second quote definitely signifies that when David Stearns is saying, we knew we weren't going to get through a full season with just 5 or 6 starters. And so here we are. We've got plenty of options. Like, I mean, you can interpret that many different ways. I just can't see it. But nonetheless, let's talk about some names.
I mean, it's not a sexy list, but there are names. So I think there's 2 off the bat that I look at and say more than likely not. Clevenger and Urias. Urias has definitely shown some great stuff, but I want to say
those guys,
he's got a domestic
Pasq,
violence.
I'm gonna cut you off right there. That is not a rabbit hole
you
want to go down.
No, I'm just saying, like, off the bat, they're not because Urias, I believe, has a domestic violence case against him.
Yeah, that's
Clevenger.
And Clevenger has some stuff going on too.
Something.
I just want to throw that out there before.
Yeah.
Before
I'm not.
But go ahead.
Not advocating for those guys. Just saying they're out there and probably not those guys. Lorenzen is an interesting one here. Did not do so great with Philly down the stretch, but had a nice start with the Tigers. And where did he throw? He threw his no-hitter with the Phillies last year, not the Tigers.
Lorenzen?
I think Lorenzen threw a no-hitter last year. I could be wrong. I want to say he threw one. Cueto is like a notable guy, but like he's 38. How much does he have left? And then you could tell me maybe Corey. I think Zach Greinke like unofficially retired, so that's not really a possibility. And then someone else that stands out is Corey Kluber, but he's another one. He's 37, turning 38 this year.
I think he retired too just recently, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So and then the guy Ryu from Toronto, I've never really watched him pitch, so I don't have an opinion on him.
I talked about Ryu a little bit on my channel before we signed Sean Manaea as that lefty, and I like Ryu. He's just very injury prone as well, so that's something where you have to take a little bit of a stab on him. But his sample size hasn't been there in terms of the innings pitched, but nonetheless, he does have some great stuff. A little bit of a softer thrower. He's a southpaw, throws around 91, 92, 93 max. But he's got some pretty good off-speed pitches. And yes, by the way, Dan is checking into the stream here. By the way, make sure you guys are following Dan on X. A lot of great Mets content there as well. He's been up on my True Mets Talk podcast live streams. He is affirming what you said. I was completely out of the loop on this.
And you know why I remember that? For such a dumb reason. Something about the cleats he was wearing. he was wearing like Vans cleats or something, or like like some kind of custom cleats. And I remember
Ridiculous,
something about his cleats and the no hitter, and I think his cleats got sent to Cooperstown, some weird thing like that. But that
Yeah.
to me, if I'm looking at free agents, I know he didn't
Oh.
look great down the stretch, but I if you told me tomorrow that the Mets signed like Michael Lorenzen to a 1-year deal at like $3-4 million, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world for this team.
No,
really
definitely
don't.
not. I
So-
agree with you. Oh, by the way, it'd be saying that Ryu actually signed to a team in the KBO, so he's off the board as
Oh,
well.
okay. Wow.
I was completely oblivious to that as well. But yes, I actually agree with you. Like if the Mets chose to prioritize an external free agent candidate, yeah, if you throw a 1-year deal for like a couple $1 million, like Lorenzen's way, or maybe like an Eric Lauer's way, sure. What's the worst that could happen? It's just extra
and that's it.
competition now.
Right, because you know you
Right.
have 15 million to play with until you hit that Steve Cohen tax. So like you're gonna leave yourself some money in the event, in the off chance that you go on a run and you could make a trade. And okay, sure, that's why you leave that money
Right.
there. But like, you're already spending all this money. If you're David Stearns and like you just said, Eric Lauer or Lorenzen's agent calls you and says, hey, he was originally looking for $9 million this year, but he's willing to come to New York for 3.5 with incentives. I think you're foolish to not take that. I mean, you just are, because like you could never have enough starting pitchers, A, and B, I know we're about to talk some other internal options, but this is a rotation that's going to be moving to a 6-man rotation once Senga comes back anyway, right? Like that's the assumption.
Yeah.
That's the assumption that we're under. That was what we wanted to do when we were going after Yamamoto as well. So yeah, like it does not hurt you to have another guy that's a back end type of starter that's there. And if you're wrong, okay, you were wrong on $3.5 million. Big deal. In my opinion, I think the Yankees were big time fucking wrong on whatever they spent on Marcus Stroman. Man, you idiots. Wait till that headache starts blowing games in August. Yeah, he's going to hear the Bronx cheer. He's going to hear the Bronx cheer, all right.
Well, and they better hope Rodon turns around too, because Rodon.
Oh my God!
Oof.
Oh, those two fucking assholes! Oh, imagine them flipping off the crowd. I'm sorry, Chris. I wasn't supposed to curse. I know.
No,
Next time
dude,
you're
good. I don't really care at this
Oh.
point. You can curse all you want. This is Interstate After Dark. Nelson's not here, unfortunately. If you guys are just checking in with us, Nelson's not here. He's got internet issues, so it's only us holding it down. Ibby's laughing. I don't curse on here, but I'm not gonna ever censor what you say. So you can go ahead. I don't care, man.
I gotta button it up, Chris. I gotta button it up. I'm sorry, pal.
No, I appreciate everyone
sorry.
rocking with us, though. We got about 30 heads in the live chats, floating between 35 and 30. If you haven't hit that thumbs up yet, make sure you go ahead and do so. All streams, not only mine. Want to show Nelson some love, make sure you go to his YouTube. It's streaming to his YouTube. And make sure you go to the Sunny Days Media 516. Type in the @ on YouTube and make sure you go subscribe. There's going to be great Mets content coming out, and there's great football content coming out every single week.
Oh yeah,
throughout the
we're
year.
doing. I totally forgot to say we are going to be doing a draft special. So
Yes.
tune it. That's something that we will plug it. But the night of the first night of the NFL draft, and we'll probably do something the second night. But the first night of the NFL draft, we are going live for the entire draft. Myself, Facino, and my co-host on Sunny Days in Detroit, Pat, one of my co-hosts. We are doing a full deep dive on every single guy that walks through the doors of the combine. We are going to have full scouting reports on all of them. So regardless of who you're a fan of, if you're just a gambler, if you're a fantasy football guy, if you are a fan of any of the NFL, the 32 NFL teams, tune into that. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Sorry about that, Chris.
absolutely. No, you're good. Plug yourself away. Speak freely, like Carlos is saying. There's no censorships here. Speak freely. And I'm very, very, I know this is Mets talk, but I'm very, very scared of what my Giants are going to do at number 6. So I might have to give my live reaction over there if you guys are going live for the draft. Number 6 is going to be a headache. But nonetheless, on we move because we got some Mets baseball to talk about. And yes, by the way, Dan, I might actually prop up a little fantasy baseball league. If anybody in this chat any of my subscribers want to sign up for a little bit of a CP New York Sports Fantasy Baseball League, I might actually prop that up together. So if you're down, let me know. That's something we can get together, and that's something that I can admin if I have enough people, enough heads that want to do that. But yeah, no, like I said, getting back on topic to the discussion, this is slim pickings for the New York Mets if they go the external route. You have Michael Lorenzen. We just learned today on the stream that Ryu signed in the KBO. Corey Kluber, if I'm not mistaken, just called it quits a couple days ago. You have Eric Lauer, had a really rough year last year, but has shown signs under David Stearns over there in Milwaukee, another southpaw. But let's talk about why they might not go the external route, why they might not entertain signing a free agent. And obviously we are disagreeing on that fact, but nonetheless.
Chris, can I just there's a comment here from Sanders canceled.
Yes.
Domingo Armand.
Oh, you can't prop it up, can you?
No, I can't. I don't think so. No, it doesn't let me. You got to prop it up.
Dallas
He's the last. No, the last comment, 8:35 p.m. Sanders cancel. He's asking about Domingo Germán. Domingo falls in that same category with Urias and Clevenger. Domingo's got a domestic violence case as well against. I don't know if it's a case. He slapped his wife at a team picnic and it got him suspended for like 60 games. That's definitely not something the Mets want around the organization. So he falls in that same that same boat as Urias, I think, and Clevenger.
Quite simple. This is where I'm going to leave the Clevengers, the Bauers. I know we haven't talked about Bauer here, but the Bauers, the Domingo Germáns, the Julio Uriases, like all those guys are not coming to the Mets whatsoever. I think we should all let that go. And regardless of what your stance is on it, I'm just going to say this clearly, like they're not coming to the Mets. I'm quite simply not going to talk about it from here on out, but they're not coming to the Mets. Go look at Zach Scott and what he just tweeted earlier today. Former GM of the New York Mets. He explained perfectly why the Mets are not going to go down that avenue. And that's just, we're going to leave it there. We're going to rest it there. So yeah, all those guys, it's not happening. But nonetheless, onward we move. Opening day roster outlook in terms of what the Mets have to work with right now. We have a little bit of a competition, as you can tell at the bottom of your screen here. 13 pitchers will be on this roster come opening day. We got 4 starting pitchers locked into the New York Mets right now. And we got 6 bullpen options that I think, and maybe you can take off Drew Smith because I don't think he's a quote-unquote lock, but I do think he's going to get another opportunity. We got 3 spots essentially available across the bullpen and the rotation to fill with about 7 different guys that I think can be options for this team in filling those spots. Now, we talk about the rotation. Kodai Senga's obviously not going to be there opening day. Everybody's going to have to step up. Everyone's going to have to slot up, and we'll see what the Mets do opening day and who's going to be that pitcher. Because honestly, and I know someone said it here in the chat before, I would probably make Luis Severino my opening day starter. Pasq, I'm not sure where you sit on Luis Severino, and I definitely want to get your thoughts on him, but I think that he is going to be, when it's all said and done, the best Mets acquisition of this offseason. I think he's going to pitch a lot better than what his projections are slating him out as. And they're projecting him already at 26 starts, which would be fantastic within itself. But I think that he's going to be a candidate to get back to the old Luis Severino that we saw in the Bronx in 2017, 2018 timeframe, to get into those threes in the ERA category and get into those 30-plus games started. So there is a real case to make for Luis Severino being your opening day option. But if the Mets just want to play the tenure game and they want to play the safer route, then Jose Quintana, as of right now, with the way the rest of this rotation stacking out, would be your opening starter. But what do you think about this list? Bullpen, let's start at the rotation first. What do you think about the rotation and who can slot into that 5th spot right behind Adrian Hauser and maybe even the 6th slot?
So can I... one question, 2 questions. Well, yeah, 1 question. Can I kind of pick, okay, no, I am going to ask a question. My head's all over the place. Do you think we're going to have a 5-man rotation until Senga's back? And then, or do you think off the bat they want to run with a 6-man? Or do you think it's going to be a wait till Senga comes back and then, because I almost feel like a lot of these guys are structured and they've got their habits. So to kind of take them out of that and make them wait an extra day to pitch again, like for me, logically, I was never a pitcher. I would think like, okay, great, one more day of rest. But I don't know how that goes with these guys. So let me ask you that question first. Do you think it'll be a 5 until Sanga's back, and then they would just insert Sanga in with the 5?
I'll answer this in 2 parts. I think they're going 6 no matter what because of the point that you mentioned before. Luis Severino has the injury history. Jose Quintana dealt with an injury for the first half of last year. And like you said, Joey Lucchesi as well. Like he still needs to prove that he belongs in that rotation. He did very well last season, but let's face it. This isn't the surest rotation in the league. Like you're banking on a lot of things to go right with this rotation, especially now with Senga out. I think they start off with a 6-man, and I'll tell you why. Because a guy like Mike Vasil to crack that opening day roster, I think this is the perfect storm with Senga being out that he can slot in and the Mets can see what they have in a Mike Vasil very, very early on, and I wouldn't discount that fact. But nonetheless, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Before we talk about those guys at the bottom, I will answer your question directly and say I think it is still going to be a 6-man rotation.
Okay, so off the bat, you think it'll be 6.
Off the bat.
If we think it's 6, we're looking for 2 more guys here. I think that there's an easy one here, and it's Tyler McGill. Tyler's done it before. He's testing out his I guess hopefully maybe we see it tomorrow in that game against the Cardinals. His American forkball he's been throwing, apparently it's got some high praise, but once again, is that just hype? Is that just Mets hype? Who knows? But nonetheless, it's got some people talking. Jeremy Blevins seems to be very excited about it. So let's see. I mean, listen, Tyler McGill has never been a guy that you looked at and say, he doesn't have good stuff or he's not good. The issue with Tyler is injuries and fatigue. And that's, outside of like coming out of the bullpen. He's not good coming out of the bullpen for some odd reason. But when this is a guy that starts the game with a ball in his hand in the first inning, he's been effective for us. He's had his struggles here and there, but he's been effective. I think if Tyler's a guy that could stay healthy for most of the season, I think you're going to see him throughout the year. I really do. Like, honestly, and maybe it's just because I've never watched him, I think I have more questions about Adrian Hauser than I do Tyler McGill. Like, for me, Tyler is simple. Yeah. Tyler is simple. He's either healthy or he's not. If he's healthy,
I'll say this about Adrian Hauser. I definitely take a look. I've taken a look into his Milwaukee days. He was Mr. Consistent over there. Okay. I'm very confident in that. But nonetheless, I hear where you're coming from, though.
And then at that point, it kind of comes down, in my opinion, to for that 6th spot of Buto or Lucchesi. So I say that because I think at some point this year we are going to see Mike Vasil, Christian Scott, and Dominic Hamill, maybe. But I think Vasil and Scott we are probably going to see. When that's going to be, I don't know. In all likelihood, it'll probably be because of injury, right? Like that's why we saw Jose Buto so early last year. I think against Oakland or L.A. It was on the West Coast trip we saw him. In like May.
I think it was Oakland, if I remember. But I mean, he made a couple starts. Like it wasn't just one thing.
Jose Buto, a lot of people are high on. I almost want to say that I think Buto is going to get that 6th spot, and not because I don't believe in Lucchesi, but I think that I in my head, I think what they want to do with Lucchesi, is what they kind of tried doing with Peterson at one point last year is they've been missing a Trevor Williams. So for those of you that follow the New York Mets, and you've been following for quite a while, a guy that I think was one of the most important guys of the 2022 season where they won 101 games was Trevor Williams. Okay, and this was a guy that started on short notice, that would come in when a starter blew it in the 2nd or 3rd inning, or when DeGrom was experiencing tightness, or Scherzer was experiencing tightness or fatigue or whatever it was. And this was a guy that very, very quietly would come in for 3, 4, sometimes 5 innings and pitch scoreless or 1 or 2 run ball against good teams. And so, and that was the one mistake. That was one of the many mistakes I think the Mets made in 2023. They let Trevor Williams go. Now, I think part of that was I believe he wanted to start, and they didn't want to give him a spot in the rotation. Whatever. I personally think they should have just given it to him because I think he earned it. I think he was fantastic. So, basically, going around the block to get next door, Lucchesi, I believe, fits in that mold. He is a guy that I don't think you want throwing every fifth or sixth day, but he's been effective when we've called on him. We've called on him on short notice, like we did with Trevor Williams. And last year, I don't have his stats up here, but I want to say he was something in the world of like 4-2, 4-3, something like that, with a sub-3 ERA. Now, it wasn't too many starts. We know that. But Joey Lucchesi is that kind of guy, in my opinion. He's a guy that could come in and save a game from being totally blown out. And he's a guy that could come in on short notice, like I said. And so that's where I think he fits in. And Jose Butto has shown us that he can start. He's been a little shaky at times, but he's shown us that he could be effective and that he could start in this league. And I think that he's going to get his shot now, especially with the Senga injury. It doesn't mean that I think Butto or Lucchesi or McGill are better than Vassell or Scott or Hamill. I just think that they don't want to rush those guys in. There's no reason. Just like Senga, just like we don't want to rush Senga back. Why would you rush Vassell or Scott in? I think Scott is the number 2 prospect in our system. I want to say he's top 10 in the majors, right? Is he not?
He's like I want to say Christian
30?
Scott. They prioritize hitting first, so I think Christian Scott is definitely like number 5 or number 4 overall in the system. I have to go back and redo the rankings, but he's not top 2. Or
I think Baseball America spoke about him. I think he's like a projected number 3 starter in a rotation, which like for them is very high praise. And once again, it's kind of just bullshit, right? Because we haven't seen it at that level. But
just
like
rankings at the end of the day.
It's just rankings. But listen, like these are guys that they have a lot of faith in. They've invested a ton of resources in, and they don't want to rush these guys. So I don't expect them to play in April. That doesn't mean I think McGill and Butto are better. I just don't expect them to be thrown in yet. I think we'll see them in August or September, or maybe July. But I don't think we'll see them in April.
Well, another factor of that Pasq is definitely the service time manipulation, where you lose an extra year on that sort of contract before they hit whatever it is. And
you know what?
And the service time.
Not to cut you off, Chris. I'm sorry.
No,
I think that this administration, or really I should say this ownership, right? Steve Cohen, if he's shown us anything, I really think he's shown that he doesn't, not that he doesn't care about service time and the manipulation of it, but like it's not valued like it was with the Wilpons. Like if the Wilpons still own this team, or if we were Cincinnati Reds fans, we would know that these guys could be lighting it up in AAA, and they will not see this ball club until September for that reason. I think if these guys really light it up, we will see them before September. If they're lighting it up in the minors, they're not going to stay down there because this team, let's face it, they're going to need the help. They are going to need all the help they can get, and we know it. We know it. So, absolutely. I think
curious
we'll see them, doesn't know when.
I'm curious to see how David Stearns approaches this, because the sense that I'm getting with the New York Mets is that David Stearns has full reign over the day-to-day operations. He has full reign over who comes up, who comes down. And that's the sense that I'm getting. So him being such a new face in this organization, I'm very curious to see how that all plays out. But that's just a wait and see game. And like I said, David Stearns, I say this time and time again, this is a little bit of a tangent to like the offseason that we've had. We can't, and we've been saying it, Nelson agrees, I agree. We can't judge the guy by this offseason alone. Like it's impossible.
No.
With the way what he inherited, like you just can't do it. But nonetheless, I'm beating a dead horse with that topic. Let's stick on to the fact that we have these names on the list here. I definitely agree with you. I will say though, I don't know why. It's just my intuition. There is absolutely zero fact to this, but I just have an intuition that says Mike Vassell might crack this opening day roster. I don't know
You
why.
think so? Well, you know what, Chris? You're not crazy for that, and I'll tell you why. Because his fastball's ready. And this isn't me saying like I've watched his fastball from everything I've read, from listening to Jerry Blevins today. His fastball's ready, and you throw a guy like him throws a fastball over 60% of the time. So it's not crazy to say that, Chris. It's not crazy at all. I'm just going off what they've done in the past and what I think they're going to do. But Chris, you're not crazy, because especially if him and Lucchesi are kind of neck and neck. Well, you still have options on Lucchesi. So why not let Vassell come out? And if it don't work out, send him back down, and then you bring up Lucchesi anyway. What was the difference? You were going to bring him up.
It's really interesting because this is going to be this Senga injury has turned this into an immense competition where it was pretty much a competition for that last spot in the rotation, who was going to be the opener versus the long man in the bullpen. But now we're having a conversation of who's that last spot in the rotation, plus who's going to be the sixth man. And who knows, maybe that sixth man is that long man in the bullpen. Like, they can go out there and put Jose Buto in the bullpen as a long man, but also schedule him to spot start every sixth day. Like, they have options in what they do. And I'm saying, like, spot start, not give us 5 to 6 innings. I'm saying a true spot start with how deep this bullpen now looks. Like, you can spot start Buto every sixth day and be okay if he gives you a solid 3 innings and you leave it at that. Like, it's very tough to see where they're going to go with this. But another name that's been gaining some steam here has been Max Kranick, who got picked up off of waivers by the New York Mets from the Pittsburgh Pirates, underwent Tommy John surgery, I believe it was in June of 2022, got back on the mound at the tail end of last season for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I don't know much about the guy. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't really study the name of Max Kranick. I know his major league numbers don't look pretty. He's only got a little bit of sample size to go along with him. I believe he's only got like 9 major league starts or 9 major league appearances, whatever it is. But nonetheless, it's not pretty. But for some reason, I keep hearing that name. Now, I don't know how feasible it is, because that guy is thought of as a bullpen guy predominantly, but has started in the past in his career and could be in line for that starting rotation spot. Now, I don't know how the Mets view this, because are they going off of what they've used in the past? And that's where I go with Tyler McGill, because that's where I'm like, okay, Tyler McGill was that guy to start for the New York Mets when Justin Verlander went down last season. Like, he was that guy. Nobody and their mother thought that Tyler McGill was going to start on opening day for the New York Mets in 2023, and there he was.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I think they have a lot of faith in Tyler McGill, and I think they use him as that scapegoat. But to me, if this is a true open competition, you can't give Tyler McGill that spot right off the bat. Like, you just can't. And personally, if I had to pick one of my favorite options to be that guy, I'm going to say Joey Lucchesi gets that 5th spot, because he proved last season, after coming back from that arm injury, that he has what it takes to be elite. I think he went like a perfect 4-0 in the month of September, if I'm not mistaken. The 2023 numbers are kind of escaping my head right now, but he posted like, I believe it was a sub-3 ERA when going 4-0 down the stretch. I'm like, listen, what the?
I was talking about that
guy's been missing.
When you were off screen, I was. Yeah.
Oh, when I was gone, yeah. Okay, so I was like, dude, like that's money. If he can carry that momentum into this season, he'd be my first choice.
The only thing you got to be aware of there is it's almost like it's similar to the way, like a backup quarterback comes in, or a swing tackle, or like a third running back on your roster. Like, yeah, they look good because no one's seen them a whole lot, but maybe that 4th, 5th, 6th time pitching, you have enough tape on them. You see that their tendencies. So listen, I agree with you. Lucchesi has kind of earned it. He's earned it here toward the end of last year. He's earned his shot. He deserves a shot on this team for whatever that role may be. If it means he takes over that Trevor Williams role, that's where I'd like to see him. I think that's great. if they want to start the season with him in the rotation, I'm also okay with that, right? Like,
Right.
I've got more faith in him right now than I do David Peterson. I'll tell you that much. And I know David's hurt, and we're not going to see him till the summer, but he was a guy that we had spoken about for a long time. There was high hopes for. He came up in 2020, looked great, and honestly, since he went from the number 77 to 23, it all kind of went downhill. So if I'm David Peterson, maybe go back to 77. I don't know. That's just my stupid mind. One guy that stands out here, Chris, and I believe we had brought him up before the show started, Drew Smith. That's a very interesting name on this list. Not a starter. He's a guy in our bullpen. I wrote this down here, little note in my chicken scratch. Drew Smith needs to have a big camp or he might be gone. I genuinely believe that. I believe that. This is a guy that showed us so much. He's shown us less and less each year. He's gotten worse and worse. Right, 2021, you started to kind of see it. Like, okay, I think when did he debut? 2020 or 2021? I think 2020, I think. But who knows? Who knows? It was COVID. 2021, I know he was around and he looked all right. 2022, he was dynamite for like 3/4 of the season. I don't know if everybody remembers this. He was a part of the no-hitter that Tyler McGill started, that full team no-hitter. Right. It was McGill, Joely, right? McGill, Joely, Drew Smith, and then Diaz, I believe. But regardless, he is a guy, to me, I could see Fujinami stealing Drew Smith's spot on this roster. I really can. Drew Smith has not been consistent. He's gotten worse and worse. Anytime there's Sports Illustrated models on the field, this guy, I guess, I don't know, he's got his head in his pants because he forgets how to pitch. So like, Steve Cohen, stop having Sports Illustrated models, come to Citi Field, maybe get Playboy models next time. I don't know. And B, Fujinami's a guy that throws 100 miles per hour. And that's not something that is super easy to find. And they found it in Fujinami. And this is a guy, if he could learn to control it, he's got a career in Major League. I mean, he's still around like for this reason, because he throws 100, right? So to me, I see Fujinami stealing Drew Smith's spot.
Yeah, and Drew Smith has to step it up, man. Like Fujinami, he's a wild card there. And the only reason I put him, like, he's going to make the roster, but the only reason I put him down there was because he is both a starter and a bullpen guy. And the same thing can be said for Adrian Hauser. The same thing can be said for Sean Manaea. But those two guys they cannot move out of the rotation at this point, especially with Kodai Senga going down with injury. Shintaro Fujinami is interesting because you look at his numbers from last season as a starter, horrendous. Went to a better situation in Baltimore, went to the bullpen, had a lot better numbers. Has
feast or famine, though, I feel like, in Baltimore with him. It was like either great or horrible. But yeah.
Right. And the numbers were inconsistent, but like you're saying, the stuff, like the pure stuff that he possesses. And I've been watching a couple of other Mets podcasts, like, I believe Mets Up had Trevor Mayon, Wardy had Trevor Mayon, and they're talking about Shintaro Fujinami and the stuff there. And he was just raving about what Shintaro Fujinami had to offer. And like, I can see that vision. And a lot of Mets fans, before we actually signed him, we were talking about Shintaro Fujinami being that guy as a low-key sort of pickup because we just saw that electricity. And you're right. There's not many guys out there for the bullpen that'll throw you 100 plus consistently. No. And now you have two guys in the bullpen that I truly feel like lacked electricity with the absence of Edwin Diaz in 2023. You add Shintaro Fujinami and you have Edwin Diaz coming back. That is huge for this bullpen, and it makes other guys expendable, which is also as equally as important. And we haven't even talked about Jorge Lopez. Like Jorge Lopez, I think, is going to have a resurgence season as well. Looked great in the World Baseball Classic. Like, this bullpen is deep. It's very deep. I actually threw up a poll here on my Twitter account, or my X account, I should say, of these internal options. Who would you like to see be prioritized for a starting rotation spot in lieu of the Kodai Senga injury? And you can see here, 50% of the votes went to Tyler McGill. I think people were thinking with their heads and not their hearts, because Tyler McGill, if you use your head, probably is going to have that advantage over everybody else. I did use Mike Vasil as a throw-in because, like I said, I firmly do believe if worlds collide and the perfect storm happens where Mike Vasil just shows that he's elite in spring training, and I was spring training, but eventually, you have to make the move for these guys. If David Stearns is under the impression that he's not going to take the classic baseball route and say, I'm going to save these guys for service time manipulation, Mike Vasil is going to be that guy. I excluded Christian Scott because I think he still does need some polishing. I know he's 24 years old, a little bit of an older prospect nonetheless, and has a higher ceiling than Mike Vasil. But I don't know why, man. I just have this intuition, like I said, that I truly do see Mike Vasil. And Jose Butto didn't get enough love here. What do you think about this poll?
Yeah, I agree with it. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be Miguel. That makes the most sense. You're not crazy for the Vasil take.
Right.
I think they're going to want to wait a little bit. But a lot of this all comes back down to our original question. I mean, we both agree that we think they're going to come out to a 6-man rotation, but like, who knows? They were kind of reluctant to do that. Like, they half-assed it last year. Like, they didn't fully commit to a 6-man rotation. We kept hearing about it, but like, they never fully did it. So like, it makes me question, are they going to go to it this year? Are they going to, they keep saying that they're, or reporters keep saying that they're going to, but are they genuinely going to do it, first of all? And are they going to do it to start the year? Like, that's what this comes down to. Because if they're going to a 6-man, well, this poll would tell us that it's going to be Tyler and Joey, right? Because you're going to need 2 more guys. But if it's going to be a 5-man, yeah, I agree. It's going to be Tyler. You're going to go with what you know. You're going to go with the guy that's done it before, and that's Tyler McGill.
Okay, so rounding this all out, and we do have a couple comments to get into here. Middle initial pod here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you go subscribe to their channels as well. Definitely some great content over there. I'm saying Joe Lucchese. Before we get into the next topic, and I know we're about an hour and 1 minute into the stream. Pasq, I apologize. It is a Friday night.
Don't apologize, pal. I'm on the bourbon. I'm good. I'm feeling good.
There we
I'm
go.
rocking
There we
and
go.
rolling.
So we're all good there. So we have no time constraints. If you're on the bourbon,
No.
we got no time constraints.
Got no time
What I
constraints.
want to get from you is just solidify for the audience right now, and chat, by the way, before we get into the comments, and we're going to prop the comments up here. Please answer this as well. Who do you all think, like, just give me an answer straight up. We have 10 spots right now. You got 2 spots for this rotation. Let's say 2 spots for the rotation with the 6-man. And I know it's probably going to shake out where you only add 1 solidified starter and you add 2 more to the bullpen, and one of your bullpen guys is going to be the swingman. But let's just say you add 2 starters and 1 more bullpen guy into this equation. Give me 3 names that make the cut opening day, clear cut, just so we have this answer on record of the 7 guys we see down below.
You're asking me now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, sorry. Brain fart. I'm picking 3 of the bottom here, right? Of the other options.
Pick 3.
Yeah, I'm going to go with basically a lot of what we said before. I think it's going to be Tyler, it's going to be Butto, and I think it's going to be Lucchese. Maybe you could flip-flop Butto with Vasil.
No maybes. No maybes. We're doing what your
Gun
answer
to my
is.
head.
Yeah.
It's Tyler, Butto, and Lucchese. That's what I think it's going to be.
Okay.
They're not going to rush Scott in. This Max kid, I've never seen him throw. I have no opinion on him. Fujinami is a project. I think he will make this team, but I think he's going to be in the bullpen. I don't think they're going to trust him to start games. I mean, not yet.
Well,
not yet, at least.
Well, that's not accurate because you need 3 guys. So if you're thinking that Shintaro Fujinami is going to be on the roster, then you have to pick him and you have to drop one.
No,
of the other guys.
I think Fujinami's going to make it, and I'm going to minus Drew Smith. That's where I was going with.
Oh, that's right. Okay, got it.
So,
got it. Okay.
I think Fujinami makes it. I don't think Drew Smith does, and I think it'll be McGill, Butto, and Lucchese with an asterisk next to Butto.
Well, honestly, going back on my answer saying that Mike Vasil has a chance, that kind of hinders it because I think Drew Smith is going to make it, unfortunately. And that would mean that Shintaro Fujinami would have to start off in the minor leagues. And I don't think that's going to happen either. So that might put a damper in my Mike Vasil answer. But nonetheless, if I had to go on record and say, I would say probably, oh boy. Oh boy. I honestly think we go. I hate to go back on my Vasil answer too now. That sucks because I think it's McGill, Lucchese, and Fujinami, and Drew Smith stays put. I like your answer a lot, but I'm gonna go. Okay, if I had to tweak your answer, sorry, I'm thinking about this because this is a lot to take into consideration here. If I had to tweak your answer, I would also say Drew Smith gets canned because I just saw a video of him hanging a curveball, and I think the Mets page posted it, and I was just like, dude, that's getting shelled by a guy like anybody, Matt Olson, for like 450 feet, and we just can't have that. Nonetheless, I know it's spring training. I'm just kind of being a stickler here.
But it's what we've seen before. It's what we've seen before. And
it's what we've seen. Yeah.
It's not a matter like he's not a guy that at least I don't, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think he walks a lot, but like he gives up hits. Like hard hits.
He gets shelled.
Guys rocket the ball off of him. And then he's almost guaranteed a home run every time he comes out there. So like he's been a disaster, man. For I maybe he's got to go on like an ayahuasca like darkness retreat with Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what he's got to do, but he's been a disaster, and it's a shame because I think he's so talented. I really think he's talented. I think he's got a placement issue. It's the same thing Edwin Diaz went through when he first got here. But Drew Smith went through the opposite, is that Drew Smith started off so hot here and then just lost it. Because he was money. Right. When he first came out here, he was fucking money. Nobody could touch Drew Smith. He was mowing guys down. And then he just turned into this guy that just gave everything up. And mentally, he looks off. He looks off. Yeah. So.
And Middle Chapad is saying he's been off since 21, and his location, dude, he's got 97 to 98 in his back pocket. He can't locate it, dude. I've seen time and time again. He goes 1-2-0-2 on hitters. Then he leaves us. Like, first of all, he'll probably like throw a couple balls there in between, but he leaves an absolute meatball middle when you're ahead in the count. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? If you can locate 97, 98, you're money. You don't even need to get up to triple digits. Just locate it.
And he was a guy, we forget, beginning first half of 2022, this was a guy that would come out for not one inning, but for 2 innings, and maybe not 2 full innings, but he would come out with like 1 inning, one out in the current inning, mow the side down, and would come out and finish off the next inning too. Like, this was a guy that was just the definition of dependable. And it's almost like since the All-Star break of 2022, he's fallen apart. And it's just it hurts my heart to see because he's a young guy that's got incredible stuff and he's a flamethrower, and he just can't find it anymore. And that sucks. That fucking sucks because you know what's gonna happen is we're gonna cut him. The Tampa Bay Rays are gonna pick him up. One of 2 teams is gonna pick him up. The Tampa Bay Rays or the Atlanta Braves or someone fucking or the Astros. Someone south of Baltimore is going to pick him up and turn him into a fucking stud. Right?
Yeah, because that's what they do. That's what Tampa Bay does. That's what Houston does. Yeah. That's what the Braves do. And M. Easy was saying in the chat here, I honestly agree with him. I'm not sure how this guy stuck around for so many regimes. I guess he does deserve his flowers. But really, with the amount of projects that the Mets have this season, Jeremy Hefner is on the clock. This is his time to show that he is that guru that everybody's wanting to trade for and everybody's been pissed off in this Mets fan base about. And like I said, there has been some undeserved slander of Jeremy Hefner. But when you look at Sean Manaea, when you look at Luis Severino, when you look at a guy, perfect point-blank case in Shintaro Fujinami that you now have to work with, Jeremy Hefner has to get these guys right, and I agree with MEZ here.
How many projects are we going to give this guy though? I mean, like last year was like the first year he really started taking flack. But like, let's look back at last year. We were throwing Scherzer, who was running on an empty tank, and Verlander, who I wouldn't say was a shell of himself, but like was not playing up to the level of his contract, but was playing relatively well. Like Verlander was not a disaster here. Like that's another thing that we do need to get straight here in Mets land. Like right. Max Verlander. Not Max Verlander. Whoa. Justin
Max
Verlander.
Verlander. I love that.
Justin Verlander was not a disaster of a Met. Like, it didn't
Right.
start out hot because he had that injury, but this was a guy that wasn't pitching to the level of the back of his baseball card, but like was pitching at I would say a number 2, number 3 level. And and outside of that, it was injuries galore here. I don't think that there was a lot to work with last year. The team was a fucking disaster. So, as much as I want to cut him some slack, yeah, he's got his work cut out for him this year. What I want to see out of Hefner, honestly, if Hefner could show me anything this year, anything, show me that you could revive Luis Severino's career. If you could do that, and you could call up a Vassell, Scott, or Hamill. Like, let's say we've got Vassell, Scott, Hamill, and Buto. Those are 4 young guys that are looked at to, in some capacity, be a part of the future of this organization. If you could revive Luis Severino's career, and you could show that 2 out of those 4 young guys I named could be quality starters for this team, you should keep your fucking job. And I don't care what the rest of the staff does, because Manaea, who knows what the fuck we're getting out of Manaea. Adrian Hauser, okay, consistent, but he's a back end of the rotation kind of guy.
Yes.
Jose Quintana, his entire career has been a number 3, number 4 guy, and that's fine, but that's what he's been, and that's what I expect. I expect nothing more, nothing less. So if you could get the best out of a guy, because a guy like Severino is a guy that has ace stuff. He's just never been consistent with it. Never. Right? And he's had injuries. So if he's healthy, if you could show that you could get this guy pitching at an elite level, and you get 2 out of those 4 guys to show some consistency, he should keep his job. No doubt about it.
I'm going to I'm going to backtrack and say at this point, I have to backtrack on Mike Vassell, just because I don't think the Mets pulled the plug on Drew Smith very early on, even if he has a down spring training. Although I do believe that if I was the GM of the New York Mets, or the Pobo, if I was David Stearns, I would be canning Drew Smith if he does not show me anything in spring training. But nonetheless, I think he's going to get an opening day roster spot automatically. For better or for worse, I don't know. We'll see what version of Drew Smith we get in the regular season. But I will have to say that Shintaro Fujinami, Tyler McGill, and Joey Lucchesi get those spots. Jose Buto gets back down to the minor leagues, and Mike Vassell is just going to have to wait for his chance. I think that I would not be surprised if something shakes out to this roster, whether it's an injury that happens, God forbid, I don't want that to happen, but if that's what happens, or quite simply, if one of these guys just doesn't perform like a Drew Smith, I think Mike Vassell, if that roster spot opens up, you could see him. But nonetheless, let's get into the next topic.
Do you think they would start Vassell in the bullpen while we were talking about Vassell? Do you think –
No, I don't think so. I think that – and that's a good question, but I just think that if you're bringing up a rookie like that, I think that you have to just see what he has right away. You can't mess up his rhythm, or you can't mess up anything about his routine to put him in the bullpen first. Like, that is like – that's a huge deal, to move a starter to the bullpen and then expect him to come back to be a starter. Like, that's a big deal. So I don't think that happens.
Okay.
That's a good question, though. It's a good question. We have live action Mets baseball tomorrow. Thank God. This offseason, I've loved the growth of this channel. I've loved making videos about the offseason. I've loved chopping it up with everybody in the comment section here during the streams, on my videos. I've loved it. But it's also driven me insane, especially going on Mets X, Mets Twitter, whatever have you. I want to see these guys on the field, and tomorrow is going to be the first live action spring training game that we get to witness. I know Talking Mets with Rob is over there at Port St. Lucie. I hope he enjoys his time. Hopefully he doesn't wake up too hungover, actually gets up in time for the game, which is, I believe, either a 1 or 1:40 p.m. start, if I'm not mistaken. I will be tuning into it. Tyler McGill, all eyes are going to be on Mr. Tyler McGill. What was a start that everybody probably could have looked past with the Kodai Senga sort of situation before this bombshell got dropped on us? This is just going to be a routine Tyler McGill start. But now, All eyes are on every single pitcher that appears for the New York Mets this spring training. Pasq,
Yeah,
I know you're a big football guy. I know your Lions had a little bit of a heartbreak. I'm sorry to bring it up, and I don't want to bring it up, but I'm sorry. I know it's still stinging a little bit. But how refreshing does it feel to know that Mets baseball is back tomorrow?
well, you know that. Oh, my dog just kicked the door open. That's wonderful. Smashed into the counter. That's my dog. It is refreshing, and you know you're still human, and you know that you're not, or maybe, Christopher, maybe we are living in the Matrix or a simulation because, like fucking clockwork, the guy who was supposed to start day one for the New York Mets is once again hurt, and we are fucking probably going back to Tyler McGill on opening day. So I don't know. Maybe we are living in the Matrix. Maybe there's some truth to that. There's a red pill, blue pill type of thing. I'm very distracted by my dog, Julie. Julie, can we get him out of here?
That's what
Chris,
happens on Friday nights, gents.
Yeah, that's my apologies.
Ladies and gents.
Does it feel good? Yes, it does. It does feel good. We're back, and you know, if I could say anything about spring training, do not look so much into every guy's stats. Because that's not total. I mean, guys, from a pitching perspective, guys are throwing new pitches. They're testing different things out. So like, it's listen. If a guy throws three and like they're obviously not throwing full games, but like, you know, if a guy throws three shutout innings, that doesn't really mean he's going to be fucking lights out. Just like if he lets up 5 home runs. That's also not the worst thing in the world. Like maybe he's just trying something because these games don't count. They don't matter. And it's the same thing with guys hitting. You know, guys are not going full speed down the baseline. They're trying different things with their swing. They're going through things with the hitting coach and base running coaches. So like, you gotta just sit back, enjoy that you got baseball, and watch. What really matters is watch these young kids. Watch what Chet Williams does. Watch what a Mark Vientos does, because for those guys, I believe the stats matter. Those guys, like, it really does matter. Okay, and I'll tell you this, man. If Jet Williams comes out of spring training batting over 300, or let's say over like 330, 340 for some crazy reason, like, don't be shocked. I'm not going to say that he'll be on the opening day roster. He won't be, but like, don't be shocked if we see that guy in May. Like, don't be shocked, right? If I know the service time manipulation, you know, I know that, but you know, I think they want to see as many young kids as possible come up this year, which gives me some pause with like DJ Stewart. Like I know he earned his spot this year, but like,
Sure.
Are we really gonna see him because they signed Bader? You've gotten him. Like, we will see him because there's going to be injuries, you know, Marte especially. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how much are we going to see him?
I had a debate about this, and I've been talking about this topic endlessly. And I think that Darren or somebody in the comment section here in the stream was basically saying that, sorry if it wasn't Darren, whoever said it, shout out to you, way back in the stream, said that DH spot / the last bench spot for this New York Mets team is going to be one that we should all be keeping an eye out on, because I firmly believe, I don't think DJ Stewart has a solidified spot on the opening day roster. I simply don't think so.
I don't think so either. And it
so.
Sucks, man. It sucks because that's a guy that fucking earned it. He earned it. He earned every bit of that spot, and I feel for him. This has kind of been a journeyman, a guy that's traveled so much. He's been cut and brought back and pulled up and down. And he really, really played balls to the wall last year. And, you know, he's going to play. Like, he's going to play on this team at some point this year. He's probably going to play a good amount of time. But, like,
right,
you know, because there's so many question marks. You know, Nimmo, knock on wood, has been healthy past 2 years. But that's a guy that's been injury-riddled. Marte. Like, what are we genuine? I'm seeing people, and it's not crazy because I think it's going to happen. Right. I'm seeing people mock Starling Marte to play DH this year for like 40 games.
No, I don't want that.
I'm not saying we want it, but that's probably what we're going to see. That's probably what we're going to see. And they're probably, I guess Vientos is going to be that DH, we think. But if Beatty starts to fall apart at third, if he can't hit, he's not going to stay out there too long. I don't know.
What do you think on that topic, Pasq? I want to get your thoughts on this because this is a very big debate amongst Mets Twitter. I'm actually, before we get into that, we're gonna get into a couple topics here.
I've got a very strong opinion on Brett Beatty, but yeah,
we're gonna have another 20 minutes here because this is gonna be a very. I've had this conversation with Nelson. I've had this conversation with Baseball Tone, Mets Trucker podcast. This is a very hot debate, the Beatty versus Vientos debate. So let's get into some comments here, and then we'll talk about that because we are all excited for spring training here, but the positional shakeout come opening day is going to be very interesting. Middle Initial Podcast is saying Jet is your future center fielder. Carlos Mendoza has been confirming that we will see split time between center field and second base for Jet Williams, or was the shortstop? Whatever. For Jet Williams, he will be playing some center field, has played some center field.
I got to get a water, Chris. I'll be right back.
Leagues. Yeah, no worries. Let's see here. Sanders is saying if they trade McNeil, they better get a good starting pitcher. McNeil's not getting traded between now and opening day, so that doesn't really matter. That could be a discussion next offseason, and I think that if he struggles again, that definitely will be a conversation. Let's see here. I got to catch up on all the comments. I appreciate you guys dropping the comments. I know you guys are having a little side discussion here as well. Stevie's saying Bartolo's all warmed up from playing in the Dubai League. He'll save us. Shout out Stevie, OG supporter of the podcast.
I fucking love Stevie Mac.
Day one. Yeah, Stevie, bro, you are the man. Like I'm gonna say right now, I appreciate your support. Absolutely. They're saying the Scott slider's not ready yet. I don't know about his slider being ready, but I think Scott just has that higher ceiling than Basil. I think that's the most common consensus with the scouting report. And he's been throwing some pretty impressive live BPs from what I've been watching and what the hitters' reactions are in spring training. So I have very big high hopes for Christian Scott. He's just not going to be part of that opening day roster. Stevie or Sanders is saying they need a swingman, and Lucchesi could be that guy. Absolutely. I think Lucchesi, I think the world of him. I think he performed very well last season when coming back from injury, and I think that he definitely is going to be on this roster, bar none. We just got to see if it's going to be for that long man role or as an everyday or every fifth day starter. Right? I think that the biggest competition for that fifth day starter is going to be Lucchesi versus McGill. And someone said in here before, I believe it was Darren as well. Like I said, I apologize. I'm trying to keep up with these comments. There's something to be said for the Mets maybe not committing to three lefties in that starting rotation. You have Jose Quintana, Sean Manaea. And if you go with Joey Lucchesi as your next guy, that's two righties versus three lefties with batting orders and with lineups across the league being predominantly right-handed. I know the Mets love the matchups. Quite frankly, I think matchups are overrated, but I think in that large of a sample size, they would not go with three lefties over two righties. I think they would go a six-man rotation. Maybe you see an even split 3-3. But if it is a five-man rotation, I think Joey Lucchesi, by virtue of just the arm that he throws with, would just lose out on that competition. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's tough to imagine. A three lefty. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, they got to get they have to get outs. So if those three lefties can consistently get guys out, it could be five fucking lefties. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. But I agree with you. I don't see that. It's not impossible, but I don't see it.
This is a great comment. Sanders is asking, is 100%. This Marte's? Yes,
100%. He's got a fourth-year option.
Starling Marte will not be a Met next season. You can book that.
Yeah, no. that'll be dead money, and it is what it is. 100%.
Yep. 100%. I agree. And Middle Initial Podcast is saying at Sanders, it definitely should be. Listen, I just don't think there's any way that they keep that on.
If there is a world where Marte lights it up, then I'm sure he would probably. I believe it's a player option. I want to say.
No, I think it's just a straight 4-year deal. This is the third year that he's going into, so he's got another year anyway. So they'd have to buy him out.
Yeah. So I think that's what's going.
I don't think it's going to happen though. I don't think it's going to happen with the guys coming up. I don't think it's going to happen.
No.
So I would say it's his last year.
They're going to eat that.
But moving on. Before we get into the Mark Vientos and Brett Beatty and we hear your Brett Beatty thoughts, this is the poll that I ran on my YouTube channel. I asked people to respond, and I appreciate everyone that did participate. We asked who is going to be, in you all as viewers' opinions, who is going to make the biggest impact on the 2024 New York Mets? This was not intended to be a question. Who do you think is going to make the opening day roster? Who has the best chance? I was asking, and just to clarify this before we talk about it, when they are brought up, whenever they are brought up, who would make the biggest impact to this team? And it was a very even split amongst the voters. Personally speaking, if I had to answer my own poll, I would say Mike Vasil, just because I think that he probably is going to be the first one up of anybody on this list, and probably Drew Smith a close, or Drew Gilbert a close second. But I would go Mike Vasil, and that'd be my answer. Pasq, what do you think about this poll, and who would your answer be?
I'm gonna go. Like, this is hard, man, because I think so much of this is dependent on when each one of these guys come up. So there's a good chance we don't see Jet Williams. Now, we might see Jet, and they've hinted at that this year. But I think if we see Jet, it's probably going to be later in the season. So, in all likelihood, that knocks him out. Christian Scott, I don't think we're going to see Christian Scott. I think if we see Christian Scott, it'll be in September or August. He's young. Right? He's younger, right? Vasil's older, or it's the other way around? Christian Scott's older.
I think they're both the same age, because Christian Scott's 24 years old, and Mike Vasil, I believe, is 24 years old as well.
Is he? Okay. From everything I've read, it seems like Vasil is a little more pro-ready than Scott is. So, I feel like that knocks Scott out. Acuna, if we didn't have McNeil, then I think Acuna would probably be on the opening day roster, or close to it. But we have McNeil, and he's a good player. I don't care what anybody says. But whatever. We'll get into that later. So I don't think it's so. Essentially, it's between Vasil and Gilbert. I guess Vasil, but it could be either one of those two. To me, it's Vasil.
Dude, I love Drew Gilbert. Gilbert.
Yeah, it's just a matter of it's a heavy outfield. There's a lot of guys here. We just said that there's going to be a point where someone goes down, if it's Bader, if it's Marte, and they're going to have to decide between Drew Gilbert or DJ Stewart. And honestly, if it's April, they're probably going to say DJ Stewart, because DJ's been a pro before and Gilbert hasn't, and they don't want to rush him. There's no this was the guy we forget. This was the guy that they wanted out of that Verlander trade. They wanted him. So, and that's what made Steve Cohen take on the rest of that, or the majority of that money, was getting Drew Gilbert. So I don't think they want to fuck this up.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I struggled with this one. I just went Mike Vasil, but I think either one of those guys.
Yeah.
Jet Williams, we'll see. I don't know, man. This is such an exciting time to be a Mets fan, with just seeing these names that have the potential to come up and make an immediate impact with the New York Mets in 2024. And this is really all what 2024 is about. We know that David Stearns has been preaching competitiveness, and he's been preaching that the Mets could potentially make a wild card sort of playoff scenario, where it just seems all like Mets fans are like, oh, there's no wild card scenario here. This team sucks, whatever, the offseason that we just had. I think this team can sneak into the wild card, but nonetheless, that is clearly not the end goal here. The end goal is to have a developmental type season. Hopefully this team makes a run, but you evaluate at some point all of this talent and the surplus of talent that the Mets have in the farm system, and that David Stearns is going to have to eventually make tough decisions on in terms of who stays and who goes. Because we both agree, Pasq, taking this off, we both agree that the Mets are going to spend next offseason, and this roster is going to look night and day different. And you need to evaluate this talent that's on the cusp of making this team. And I'm talking more so position players here, because the starting pitching depth is not as plentiful in the Mets farm system than the positional players are. But you have a batch of players positionally that are ready to come up. But you also have an entire other batch of players. Your Alex Ramirez's, your Ryan Clifford's, your let's see, Marco Vargas, Colin Houck. You have a whole different batch of players.
We were just talking about him.
Parada. You have a whole different batch of players that are not ready to come up, but they are still there waiting, and they're only getting older too. So you have to make quick decisions on these guys that are more so ready right now.
That's why this year is so crucial to play these young kids.
Facts.
Kids that aren't ready, don't rush them, but this year is crucial. Steve Cohen's got money, but there's no reason to spend at a position that you may already have covered, right? We're talking about center field. We're talking about Jet Williams playing there potentially. We're talking about Drew Gilbert probably playing there. And we've got a guy we gave a lot of money to last year that's a fucking really good center fielder, and his name's Brandon Nimmo. And let's not forget that guy. Does he have the best arm? No, but it's damn hard to hit a ball past that guy. And, you know, when you talk about doing all the right things, and it brings me, I know you guys have beaten it, and I'm not going to go too much into it, but like Pete Alonso, right? Those guys, Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo, these guys have done everything right. They have done everything right. They have busted their ass. They have done everything right off the field. They have said the right things to the media. They have hustled everything out. They have adjusted to positions that the media, let's be honest, did not think that they could play. Nobody in Mets land thought Brandon Nimmo could actually play center field. And you know what? He did a great fucking job at center field last year and the year before. Right.
That's another potential center fielder, by the way, that I think is going to have a huge impact on this team.
He's a little young though, if I'm not mistaken, right? He's got some time.
I got to see what his age is, but obviously we got him in that trade. I want to see how old he is. He's a fourth bench. He's a fourth outfielder on this bench. He's locked into the bench, but he's a fourth outfielder.
Okay.
We got him in that Adrian Hauser trade, and I know he can play all three. No, he's not young. He's in the prime of his career. He's 30 years old, has some pop in his bat, is a nice little righty. He can play center field if need be. Like if Harrison Bader goes down, right,
which is inevitable. It happens every year.
Which is at this point,
and let's not talk down about what he is. I mean, his bat is not the best, but like this is a guy that is a stud in center field. Like this is a guy. This was a fucking Mets killer in St. Louis. We forget this. Because it was now 2 seasons ago. This guy was a fucking Mets killer every year against us. Every year. And I remember watching him. I remember watching this guy saying, I would fucking love to have a guy like this. He's a gamer. He's a fucking ball player. Lays out for everything. He reminds me of a football player. He reminds me of a guy I want playing middle linebacker. That's what he reminds me of. A try-hard guy that's not the most talented, but goes balls to the wall all the time. Not the best bat, but yeah.
I don't think we ever see Nimmo in center field again. I think that was his last. I think this is his last.
I think we'll see it periodically. No, I think we'll see it periodically.
You think so?
From who was talking about it? I don't know if it was Ryan Finkelstein at Locked On Mets or if it was somebody was talking about it. And when he was asked, it seems like he'd like to play, but like when Bader's not around, he would move back to center.
I was more so thinking in like starting in 2025. Like,
no.
I don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'll be
because at that point, Drew Gilbert's there.
Yes.
Like, Jet Williams is there.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to move.
No, I agree. I agree on that. I'm thinking in terms of 24. Can we get to Brett Beatty?
Get into Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos. I'm going to have to get some water here in a second, so I'm going to let you spit for a second. But my question to you is, listen, we know the Mets, they just signed G-Man Choi and Luke Voigt, right? We're talking about potential, like DJ Stewart's not locked into this last bench spot. But I've been preaching this point because the Mets did not prioritize a DH in the open market. Having to rely on someone else at the DH spot, not named Mark Vientos, automatically makes the third base competition between Vientos and Beatty null in my eyes. You can't have a true competition at third base defensively. I think both these guys are going to play, but to tell me that Brett Beatty is going to get defensively his spot taken by Mark Vientos when you don't have another hitter that can consistently DH for this team, or at least that, like, you definitely have that, but you don't have one that we would want to see every day. I don't think that I think that it makes that competition null, and I think it's just smoke. What do you think? And I'm gonna go off camera here for just like 1 second. I'll be right back. Go ahead and spit.
I think so. This is tough. I think most of this comes down to Brett Beatty's bat. Ultimately, if Brett Beatty can hit and hit consistently, and show the pop that we expected him to have, not that what he does in the field is irrelevant, but it's more a concern to see what he could do at the plate. If this is a guy that can consistently hit at the level that we expect of him, then I think he's got that third base spot locked down. I do absolutely believe that. Vientos, there's a lot of talk of him improving at third and doing all these fielding drills in the offseason with Francisco Lindor, and that's great. That is great stuff to read in the middle of January. If you're a fan of a playoff and of an NFL team that's not in the playoffs, that's great stuff to read and think about before you go to bed at night. But ultimately, we've yet to see it. So I think what's important for spring training is we should want to see Brett Beatty get at bats in every game possible. Every game, should play most of every game. Well, I guess maybe that's not realistic, but should essentially get at bats in each game. And I think we should see a little bit of Mark Vientos at third, just to be fair to him, to see where that work has gone. But Chris, did you hear any of the stuff I had said about Vientos before, or?
I only heard that you think Brett Beatty is going to be a lock at third base, which is all I needed to hear, because that's just my main gripe. Like, I think that there's no way you can move Beatty off third base.
So we forget this. We forget this about Beatty, and maybe it's an emotional attachment I have because, like, I watched when he was drafted. I watched his first game when he had visited Citi Field, and he was in the press box with like Steve Gelbs, and this was a guy that had a full ride to go to Texas to play baseball for the Longhorns. Like, that is a premier, for those of you, and I'm not a big college baseball guy, but I watch a little here and there. Like, there are a few notable baseball programs in this country that actually like make money. So like college sports don't make money. Like, there's football and basketball. Like, college football generates like 85% of the money in college sports. I think college basketball generates whatever it is, 10 or so, whatever the next percentage would be. And then the 1% is the rest of college sports. So like some college gymnastics programs make money, but most don't. Some softball programs like in the SEC make money, most don't. There's about, I want to say, like 15 to 20 college baseball programs that actually make money. One of them is Texas. It's like Texas, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, I think George Washington, maybe South Carolina. There's a handful, but Texas is one of them. Texas is a premier program. Roger Clemens pitched at Texas. And Brett Beatty had a fucking full ride to go there and decided, nope, I'm going to go play for the New York Mets. That's what I'm going to do. This was a guy that came out and showed so much promise. And if you look at the day that this kid was drafted, and I know that, we go through puberty and people grow, but this is a kid that fucking doubled in size. He's gotten huge and strong and fast, and the kid cares. You could see he cares. I mean, that first at bat when he hit that home run in Truist Park in Atlanta, you almost teared up when you watched him round the bases. And you saw him give the I love you to his mom up in the stands. Like, that was beautiful. That was unbelievable. And that's a prime New York Mets memory as a fan. And once again, I'm saying all this, maybe it's just an emotional attachment I have to this kid. And I'll admit that, man. If that's what it is, it is. But I see so much in him. I think he's a fucking stud. I've seen him make some plays at third base. I'm not telling you David Wright. I'm not telling you that he's going to have his name and his number up, retired in the rafters. I'm not saying that, but I think this kid deserves more than the way Mets fans talk about him. Okay, he had a bad fucking sophomore year. All right. Like Francisco Alvarez didn't look great when he first came up either. And now he's a guy we're basically putting all our faith in. We're calling him the next Mike Piazza, and rightfully so. But it's not like he's been like over the top, he's been impressive, but it's not like you look at him and say, oh, he's a lock for the Hall of Fame or he's a lock to have his number retired. I think you got to give Brett Beatty some run here. You got to give him some run. And I really hope Eric Chavez is prioritizing Brett Beatty, because this is a guy that could really be a stud for this organization. He's a kid that could hit for contact. He's a kid that could put him in the seats 25 to 30 times a year. He's a kid that could play some fucking damn good defense, man. We've seen him make some stops at third base. We've seen him make some tough throws. I know he's had his errors, but every young kid that's 23, 22 years old is going to make errors thrown over the first base in a major league ball club.
Pasq, I worry about his arm, though. I worry about
his bat. At the end of the day, if you can't make it work with that arm, they'll stick him they could put him at DH here and there, because Vientos is no lock to be here. Even
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
Can I be honest with you? I don't think Beatty and Vientos will be here next year. I don't think,
you think both are gone.
I think both are gone.
I think one stays, but who that'll be.
I expect good years out of them, because I'm not writing these kids off. Like, I think they're going to have resurgent years. But realistically speaking, with where the Mets want to go, and just talking about how next offseason is going to be a completely 180 offseason, if I had to guess, than what this offseason is, I don't think both of those guys are here.
Look, I mean,
from
a financial standpoint here, you're talking about next year between re-signing Alonso, which from all accounts, it seems like that's the plan, right? Between re-signing Alonso and if and only if they go after, which I believe they'll go after, will they sign him is another story. If you go after Juan Soto and you win those sweepstakes, you're talking about probably close to $80 million between those two guys.
And they have flexibility to do that.
They have the flexibility, but that's what I'm trying to say to you, is that if you're spending that kind of money on both of those guys, I don't know how much more you're spending around the diamond. So, and you're going to have to go out and get at least one more pitcher. You're going to need more than one more pitcher, but you're going to have to
get three guys. I think those will be the three contracts that are given out next offseason. And then you just plug and play with prospects elsewhere.
So where do we think that Ronnie Mauricio is going to play a better third base than you think he will? That's not crazy. I mean, his bat and base running. I think that he would take Brett Beatty's third base job if he was still. I was projecting him more at second base, but for all intents and purposes, what I read, the Mets were expecting a competition with Ronnie Mauricio and Brett Beatty at third base. So I also think, man, I think they're going to turn some of these prospects into a starting pitcher too.
Yeah,
because there's
Peralta. I said it on my channel.
There's too many guys.
Peralta from the Brewers.
Okay.
Sorry.
I wanted them to go after Brandon Woodruff. I wanted them to do that, except that he wasn't going to pitch this year, and just lock him down for next year, sign him to a 2-3 year deal. That's what I wanted. I thought that would have been great. They didn't do it. It is what it is. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think all of these prospects are going to play for this team. It's just not possible. It's not going to happen.
We're going on a little bit of a tangent here, so I apologize to the chat and anybody listening. I hope you guys are enjoying this, but we're kind of going beyond 2024 right now, which is great. I like to hear. We haven't had you.
What are you talking shit, Chris? What do you think? You're better than me? You're down in the DC, the DMV area. You're better than me. I can't talk about that.
I want to hear what your take is, because honestly, I've been telling on my channel. I've been trying to not only talk about 2024, but I've been trying to foreshadow what the Mets might be thinking from the top about what's going to happen in 2025. And I quite simply agree with you. Ronnie Mauricio is still there. I think that they're going to prioritize him, especially if a guy like Brett Beatty struggles again. I think he's on his way out. But also, the Mets will have contract flexibility and payroll flexibility to take on both Pete Alonso's contract extension plus a Juan Soto deal if he falls into their lap. Plus, they can go out and get a premier pitcher. Now, also, I want to get rid of this notion to say that the next year's free agent class from the starting pitching standpoint is better or is good. I don't see it. It is good on paper, but they're not young. Zach Wheeler is old. He's not coming back.
And they're not going to go back in the world of like signing, 38. No, they're not going to do that.
The only sort of option that you would have is maybe take a chance on Walker Buehler if he doesn't go back to Los Angeles. Max Fried is not leaving. If I had to guess, the Braves. You don't think so?
His contract's up. He could make more money than what they're paying him, and I hate to say this. Because I don't hate to say it. I kind of fucking like to say this. I'm going to pull the pin off. Fuck yeah, I'd love to see it. I'm going to pull the pin off a grenade and just throw it into like a circle here.
Let's do it.
A certain someone in New York that doesn't play for the Mets, he has an option next year to leave. And some would call him the best.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not saying I'm not saying we're gonna get him. I'm just saying he's got the option to leave, and he's watched other guys make more than him. He's making 36. That's a lot of money. I'm not saying he's going to leave, but by God, if that guy jumps on his option, you can't tell me Steve Cohen's not going to look at that and say like, yeah, I want that guy. He's pitched in New York and he's done it really well. Oh, and hey, by the way, Garrett, you don't have to shave and you can grow your hair as long as you want. We don't give a flying fuck. Do what you want, pal. He's a weirdo. Don't get me wrong, but
only at 9:47 on February 23rd on a Friday are you going to hear us talk about Garrett Cole potentially being open for the New York Mets next offseason.
No, but I mean, be real, Chris. He's got an option to leave. He's making 36. He's watched Verlander make what, 40, 42. He's watched Scherzer make 43.
Same thing. Yeah.
I mean, like even if he doesn't come to the Mets, like if the Yankees truly need him, what's stopping him from fucking leaving? Not from leaving, but activating that option, coming to the Mets, jacking his price up, and then calling the Yankees and saying, "Hey,
I hope he does."
Mets are willing to pay me 45.
The Yankees aren't paying Garrett Cole. If Garrett Cole opts out of that, they're not paying both Garrett Cole and Juan Soto. So
no. And what a perfect storm that would be. What a perfect storm that would be to have Juan Soto and Garrett Cole be a free agent in the same offseason. But listen, we
shout
sound
out
like
the Rangers. Shout out the New York Rangers. That's all I got to say. All right. Listen, we're going to
I digress too much, Chris. I'm sorry. I have ADHD. My head's all over the place.
No, it's good. I like these conversations because this is something that I've been paying attention to all off season. Like I've been talking about a trade for a starting pitcher. I've been talking about Freddie Peralta from the Brewers and how his contract would be perfect to trade for if the situation's aligned. But when we're talking about free agency, the Mets are going to be spending big, I think, in free agency. And, Max Scherzer's comments when he got traded certainly alludes to that fact. They're prioritizing 2025 more so than 2024. And if you want to be mad that they're not prioritizing, listen, I want to ask you, before we get into Mets trivia, and Stevie Mac is commenting here. I appreciate you.
I was about to say, Stevie, you're giving me a little half chub. My dick just hit the bottom of my counter right here. Yeah, just come right down the fucking turnpike. There's a place for you in Queens. City Field's beautiful. We got rice balls. They got rice balls in the stadium. I don't know if Cole and Soto know that. We sell rice balls. They come in like 7 different flavors. Taco, margarita. They got a Nutella one that's delicious. I'm sorry, Chris. What's your question?
You lost me at the Nutella rice balls, dude.
Oh, we got to do when you come to Citi Field in March.
By the way, anybody that will be at Citi Field, we are gonna make this happen. We are both gonna be there opening weekend.
Poor man's opening day.
Poor man's opening day, Saturday, March 30th. If anybody would like to meet up at Citi Field, let me know. We can make that happen. I'll be there. I'll be driving up. But my question is, what was my question? Let me think about this. Oh, I literally lost my place.
It was a good fucking question too.
It was a great question.
Oh, somebody in the chat, help us out. You guys were paying attention. You guys could rewind. We can't. Rewind.
Yeah, what was it?
What was Chris's question? If Alonso leaves in free agency, are they going to have to pivot to Christian? Oh, no, maybe that's just a random question.
No, that was no. We're not getting into the no. That's not getting.
No.
That was definitely made up. That was not what I said.
Damn.
Yes, Mason, I will be there that Saturdays. If you guys want to do a meetup, let me know. I would love to see you all in real life. I haven't been to Citi Field in a long time. I'm not from that area, but I haven't been there in a long time, and I definitely can't wait to get back there. So it's something that I have on my priority list, and Pasq is going to make that happen for me as well. So we're both going to be there.
Yes.
Yes. But yeah, anyways, I will probably think of the question before. Dude, we're doing a 2-hour stream here. This is
Chad, help us out. Somebody go rewind, please. He had started the question and I cut him off because I'm an asshole. Someone go back and find out what Chris was going to say. I feel terrible about this because I knew as I heard it was a fucking good question.
It was a great
fucked
question.
It up.
By the way, we have 32 people in the chat right now. Anybody crazy enough to be rocking with us for 2 hours or going on 2 hours? You guys are legit. And you know who else is legit? Pasq. You're legit. Go subscribe to the Sunny Days Media YouTube channel, Sunny Days Media 516. Just plug that into the search bar. Make sure you go subscribe. Get you to 150 subscribers. I know you're well on your way, doing a lot of football content, but you have Mets content coming up. And make sure you follow us, the joint account with Nelson and I at Interstate Mets, and subscribe. If you're new here, subscribe not only to my channel at CPNY Sports, but also Amish Country Mets Fan. Make sure you go over to his YouTube and subscribe there as well. Before, we can talk about this all day. I'm not sure if I'm going to have this question back in my head. I'm not sure if anyone's going to remind me of what I was asking. But nonetheless, if I do figure it out on a future stream, I will ask it. Let's move on into... I'm pissed, man, because that question was great. Anyways, let's move on to Mets trivia. I hope everybody's awake enough on this Friday to do some Mets trivia. This is going to be fun. I like to do Mets trivia now. This is awesome. This is a great question. It made me think a little bit. And we're going to take a couple minutes to think about this question. The question of the day here for the Interstate Mets Report. Since 2000, who are the 7 players... There's been 8 instances, but only 7 players to have hit 3 home runs in the same game for the Mets since 2000. Chat, help us out. Prop up your answers. I'm not going to answer because I have the answer here right in front of me, and I'm going to prop it up when everybody guesses.
I think I know the guy that did it twice. I'm not saying anything now. I think I know the guy that did it twice. I think Chris, you said there's been 7 players.
7 players since 2000. There's been more in the Mets history as an organization, but only since 2000. Yeah. 3 home runs in 1 game.
7 players. Oh.
I'm gonna give a couple of seconds here.
So
I'm gonna start the time. I'm actually gonna start the timer here, and then I'm gonna give 30 seconds.
What are you putting the timer?
Chat,
okay.
And I'm gonna give you 30 seconds here to jot down some names. All right, ready? 30 seconds, and now. All right. How are we looking, Pasq? let's prop up some chats here and let's see what we got here, and then we'll get into some of your answers because I'm curious.
Oh, I didn't even look at the
And
chat. Okay, I see the chat now.
I was when I did this via sporkle.com, and I think I only got 5 of the 7 names since 2000.
That's incredible that you got 5. I have like
I got
3.
5. Yeah, I got
have
5.
like 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 maybes. I have 2 guys I know off the bat that definitely did it.
Wait, okay. Why don't we just name your guys first? Let's do that.
All right, the two obvious is Lindor and Reyes. I know Reyes did it. Correct?
Reyes did do it, yes.
Okay. Lindor did it against the Yankees in 2021, right? 2021 he did it, his first year. That was the ESPN broadcast. I remember watching that. That was on September 12th. That was a Sunday night. I remember that. That was a Santa Maria. Lindor again, home run. I want to say Lindor's the one guy.
Wait, now this defeats the whole trivia purpose because I honestly, the website that I was using didn't even have Lindor as the throw.
Yeah, Lindor did it in 2021.
I know he did. So there's 8 players, not just 7.
So there's 8 players. All right. So there's 8. So fuck it.
But there's 9 instances even still. There's 9 instances and only 8 players. So
okay.
Lindor and Reyes are both correct. Yes.
I want to say Delgado.
Nope.
No.
Nope. Delgado did not do it.
I have 3 maybes here. Duda, Murphy, and Olrud. Like Olrud, I thought was like a weird one, but
one of those is correct.
Murphy.
No.
Duda
did do it.
And Piazza, I just threw him in because a million home runs.
Not him either. So let's get into some chats here. Let's see what the people think.
You know what? Wait, can I throw one more that hasn't been in the chat?
Throw one more.
Cliff Floyd.
Nope.
Fuck.
Good guess though. Good guess, but I would have guessed that too, but it was not Cliff Floyd. No name. Thank you for rocking with us. I definitely appreciate it.
Moises Alou?
Nope.
Moises Alou.
Well, no. Yeah, chat's got some good answers. I'm looking at it right now. M-Easy, you are 2 for 4 in this answer. Mason, you're 0 for 2. Stevie Mac, you're spot on. Kirk Neuenhuis is one of those guys in that 2015 season. Granderson is not one. Lindor, yes, Darren. I don't know what Sporkle was thinking, but yeah, Lindor definitely is one. So this is incorrect. The question should have been what 8 players have hit 3 home runs in the same game for the New York Mets. Let's see what else people have.
Did Granderson?
Yes.
I see Granderson a million
Jeremy,
times.
good job. Carlos Beltran was one of them. Correct. Absolutely. And then Cespedes. Yoenis Cespedes was the instance of the player having 2-3 home run games for the New York Mets since 2000. All right, this is the answer. Clear cut. These are all the guys. Mr. Robinson Cano did it as well for the New York Mets.
When did Robbie Cano do it? 2020?
2021. 2021, Robbie Cano did it. Cano, Yoenis Cespedes, 2 times. Francisco Lindor, obviously not in this answer. That is the website's fault, but I should have remembered it. Lucas Duda, Kirk Neuenhuis, OG Ike Davis. Anybody remember Ike Davis out there? Because I certainly do. That big hitch in his swing. That was crazy. Carlos Beltran and Jose Reyes in 06. I don't think anybody did it from 2000 to 2006. Jose Reyes was the first one in this, was it millennium? Century? So, yeah. That is your Mets trivia on the Interstate Mets report. So, write it out, Cano, for the win. That's funny. That is funny. And someone guessing, Darren actually guessing Conforto. No, Conforto did not do it, or unless he's saying comforting.
No, it was probably Conforto that got the spell check.
I was going to say, is that an autocorrect? I don't know. Anyways, that was Mets trivia. I'm still kicking myself because I don't remember that question that I was going to pose.
Chris, I fucked you, Chris. That was my fault. I got a sidetrack there.
It's going to eat me alive, man. It's going to eat me alive. Anyways, okay. This was the Interstate Mets report. Like, we had a 2-hour long conversation about this New York Mets team, that team from Queens. Like, I don't even know what to say at this point. We're starting off the season with Kodai Senga on the IL. Just to recap everything, we went over prospects that we're most excited for / what everyone else responded to in the poll. We went over 2025 offseason. We went over a lot of things today, Pasq. What are you thinking? How was the stream? How was the Interstate Mets Report experience? Obviously, you were here with Nelson back when I was in California. I was not able to join that chat with you all. I was in the comment section, but I was not able to join the chat. How are you feeling about our New York Mets going to 2024?
I think if you lower the expectations, I think if you go in, I saw someone said if they make the playoffs, I'm happy. Like, that would be great. That'd be awesome. I'd be thrilled if they made the playoffs. I don't expect it. I expect this team to win anywhere. Like, if they won 75 games, I would say, yeah, that's what I expect. If they won 93 games, I would say, like, okay, yeah, like, not. Like, if they won 93 games, that means Severino looked great. Manaea looked great. The young kids looked great. And there's a lot of promise. So, I think if we could hope for anything this year, hope that out of one of those pitchers we signed, something sticks. We can keep him for another year, and hope that of the young kids, hope that we see like three of them that really show us something that they could be. And that doesn't, like, Alvarez is now at this point, he's not he's a young kid, but he's not like, I have high expectations for Alvarez. Like, he's not one of them. When I say the young kids, I mean Beatty. I mean possibly Acuna, possibly Gilbert, Vientos. Sure. Like, that's maybe Acuna if we see him. Maybe Vassell, like we were saying. So, hopefully out of these young kids, if they call up, of the guys we named, if they call up 5 of those guys, if 2 or 3 of them turn out to be real good, then that's excellent. That's excellent. And we know what to do going forward. So that's all I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for the young kids to look good, that they cut their teeth a little bit, they get their at-bats, they get their time in at the plate and in the field. This is definitely going to be a very defensively sound team. They're not going to give up a lot of runs based on, if they're giving up runs, it's just going to be hard hit balls and balls in seats. That's what it's going to be. This is going to be a team that feels well. This is going to be a team that hustles. And that is just fundamentally sound. And that's what we have to see, because last year, we saw that in Buck's first year. Buck's second year, we didn't see that. And ultimately, I think that's what cost him his job. It wasn't the record. It wasn't the team falling apart. It was the team losing their fundamentals. It was losing a sense of what they were. A team that was hard running the bases, hard in the field, hard at the plate, making every at-bat count, making every pitcher. Let's go back to making every pitcher throw as many pitches as possible, because we live in the era of the pitch count. We live in the era of these pitchers on these stringent, I guess not qualifications,
just
but
regimens,
right? And the teams are committed to, they're going to throw 90 and 90 only today. That's it. I'm pulling him after 90. Don't care where he's at. So let's get back to working the count. Let's get back to a team of Brandon Nimmo's that make every pitcher earn it against us. If you're going to get us out, you're going to throw 8-9 pitches in the at-bat. Say what you want about Luis Guillorme. That was what he was as a Met. He was a tremendous fielder, and he wasn't a great hitter, but this was a guy that made you throw 8-9 pitches in the at-bat, and he helped eat away at the start, and that's what I want to see out of this team.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. That's going to be something that is going to be a point of emphasis all day long. And we didn't even in this 2-hour stream delve into the topic of what an alternate Mets lineup could look like. And I don't want to get into that right now, because that's a whole nother hour conversation about, do you move Brandon Nimmo out of the starting or the leadoff role and put him in the middle of the order? It's a whole rabbit hole we can go down. I've gave my opinions on that. If the Mets aren't looking as great offensively as I think they can look this year. That's something that Carlos Mendoza has the capability and the options of trying. But nonetheless, we'll say that for a later stream. You'll be on Pasq. Are we doing post-game live streams this year? What can we tell the people? Are we doing post-game live streams? We had the 3 amazing amigos post-game live streams going down in 2023. I know Nelson and I will be doing post-game live streams. Are you down to rock it with us? I'm going to try to make it a consistent thing because I'm not going to lie to you. As soon as I get done watching a Mets game, you know what I want to do? I want to talk about all the failures that the Mets had, and I want to talk about all the successes that they had. And I think that's what I'm going to do on this channel is post-game live stream. So anybody watching this, be buckled up and prepared for that, and tap in with me every single night right after the last pitch. We are going to be talking about New York Mets baseball in the post-game. So if that's something you guys are interested in and you guys want to be a part of that, stay tuned and tell your friends, tell your family about the channel because we are rocking that all 2024 long. Are you going to be a part of that, Pasq?
Yeah, if we can, absolutely. If we can commit to like days of the week, I could formulate a schedule around that. I could work with that. Absolutely.
Let's do it. Yeah. Boom. There you go. There you have it. That is what is in the cards for the channel and both of our channels because those will always be streamed to Pasq's channel. Those will always be streamed to mine. And those will always be streamed to Nelson. So like I said, I appreciate everyone rocking with us and spending your Friday nights with us. It means a lot. There's no other team
Shout out to Nelson.
And shout out to Nelson, by the way.
Miss you, Bill. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, he unfortunately did miss this stream. We do miss Nelson. He had some internet issues, and he's trying to get that fixed. It is the weekend, so some companies are not running through. But nonetheless, make sure you all subscribe to Nelson's channel at Amish Country Mets Fan. This is being streamed to his YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribing to at Sunny Days Media 516 on YouTube. Make sure you get Pasq to 150 subscribers. Well on his way there, and he's going to have a lot of great content. And make sure you subscribe to my channel as well. I appreciate all the support. We're going to have a lot of collaborations. Just by the way, as an unofficial announcement, I have something in the works potentially with a unique app to go along with Talking Mets with Rob and potentially doing in-game live streams this 2024 season. So please stay tuned next month to a potential announcement in that. It's going to be me alongside Rob and some other Mets content creators that might be doing in-game live streams to get a little bit play-by-play and just bantering it up just as we do here on YouTube, but actually during the games as we watch. So that is going to be an announcement coming forward in the next month. Make sure you stay tuned to that. Subscribe, hit that thumbs up, all that good stuff. If you've been here, hit that subscribe and hit that thumbs up. Hitting that thumbs up helps the algorithms. It helps the channel grow, and we definitely appreciate it. So make sure you go ahead and do that. And as for me, there's no other words. We get to see live action spring training baseball tomorrow. We get to see Tyler McGill tomorrow. And hopefully, as some comments here pointed out, Sanders and some other people, no name, were pointing out, hopefully we get to see Jet Williams, Drew Gilbert, and all these prospects that we're going to be watching all spring training long and seeing what they have up here with the big guns. So I appreciate it. This has been another episode 42 of the Interstate Mets Report. Such a great, I guess, reflecting moment to see how far Nelson and I have come on this Interstate Mets Report show ever since we started it this past June. Thank you for the support. Keep rocking with us. And as always, nothing else to say, but let's go Mets. Pasq, we're out.
Let's fucking go Mets.
Thank you for watching the Interstate Mets Report, streaming Tuesdays at 5 p.m. and Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to at Amish Country Mets Fan and at CPNY.